How do we navigate these murky parts? How do we find our clarity, especially for young people who want to establish something for themselves and do something purposeful with their life in the name of a career? Well, this wonderful morning, we'll have that discussion. My name is Noah Kipkemboi, and I'm glad to be your moderator this morning. And my powerful panel, very, very powerful, I must say. On my immediate left is Dr. Jeremiah Kiplagat, Director, Institute of Energy Studies and Research, Kenya Power. Then right after him, next we have Professor Simon Thoranira, who is the Acting Deputy Vice Chancellor, Academic and Student Affairs at Meru University of Science and Technology. Next to Professor Simon, we have Professor Njenga Munene, who is the Vice Chancellor at Zitech University. Glad to have you, sir. And next to Professor Njenga, we have Mr. Jared Ouko, who is Executive Leadership and OD and works with the Ken Blanchard companies. Gentlemen, glad to be here, glad to have you. There is always the question of gender parity. This morning, it is quite questionable, but I hope from our, dissecting of this particular topic, when you talk about careers, I will be able to give maximum value to our viewers. So the first question, if I may start at the far end, Mr. Jared, when you talk about career, what exactly do we mean in the 21st century, 2021?
I think when we talk about career in simpler terms, it's basically what is it as a young person that you want to do in life? What is it that you have decided that is the life that you want to live doing the rest of your life? So it boils down to what you're passionate about. Now, when we go to school and get to high school, Form 2, then we make choices of subjects that we are going to pursue when we get to the university. So that determines the entry level, what is it that you're going to do, and when you leave, then you go and pursue that particular career. But what is very interesting is that in many occasions, the system that we have, and thank God it's changed to competency-based, the system that we have had has taught students to actually just cram to go ahead. And then when they get to the point where they need to make the points, they make the points to choose the schools they go to, and then in the process, they find themselves in the university with the points that they have that determines then what courses they're going to do. And the gurus from the university are going to expound on that. But you'll find that in terms of joining the university, after maybe 1-2 years, a lot of young people change their career. Maybe parents don't even know. And what they're getting out to do is not exactly what they joined to do. And I'm sure we understand what I'm talking about. So when it comes to now choosing that career, it is something that you're passionate about. But there's a lot more on the other side when we leave the university that we'll need to expound exactly to know exactly what happens.
Definitely, and I can relate actually, Professor Munene. When I joined university, I was advised to take a particular course. Yes. Actually, I was meant to be a teacher. Imagine, yes. Noah Kipkemboi teaching mathematics and business. What a blessing. Yeah. Those kids will have performed very well. Yeah. But just what Ouko has said.
Yes.
I mean, what did career mean 25, 30 years ago? And what does it mean today? Has it changed? Has it evolved?
I think career have always meant the same thing, whether it is 25 years ago or it is today. It's only that the environment has been changing. But in life, during our time, the choice of career was very much influenced by what we saw. The level of interaction was very low. Most likely we interacted with their teachers and the people in the village, and therefore you are, because a lot of what we become, first of all, begins as childhood fantasies. What happens between age 0 to age 14, where if you ask a child, what do you want to become? They'll tell you everything. A policeman, I want to become a doctor, I want to become a nurse, I want to become... Those childhood fantasies go up to the age 14. Then from age 14 onwards, you start realizing that maybe what you wanted to be as a policeman when you're a kid is not something that you really is in sync with with the way you are. And therefore, what happens is people change from age 14 all the way to around age 21 when they join the universities. In many cases, they change, and you find that is a time you find one is feeling a cause, then changing it, unless you are very, very clear in your mind. And that clarity doesn't come very easily. So you find by age 21, most of the people who have determined exactly what now they want to do. You are very mature and able to know that my psychology does not allow me to be a human doctor. And you suddenly fear blood, and therefore you definitely that becomes the no career. And if you want to become a firefighter, definitely you must be ready to be burned. So the issue is now the discernment, and that's why you find we get, for example, about 2%, 2 to 5% of the students who join particular careers in the university change. But the majority of the students stay in the careers they have chosen, because at that time they are clear in their minds what they want to do. Then after that, there are other factors that also will dictate what kind of career it is. Today, I think the difference is coming because of influence of internet. Today, most of the people are multi-careered. You are in journalism, but the moment you leave this place, you're on the net marketing some other things that you are probably merchandising.
Or I'm a firefighter.
Or I'm a firefighter. So what happens is that currently there's a lot of cross-cutting careers. You find the role of e-commerce taking a very central role in terms of the choice of the students, what they do. If, for example, you take Ajira, the Ministry of ICT and Youth, a lot of our students are being trained. For example, in ZTech, we have Ajira Club, where we train students to trade online, to do work online. Some of them are doing interpretation. Some of them are doing assignments for international companies. Yet they are doing something different. The student could be doing hospitality, but yet he's also joining what he's doing with something extra. So the environment, the global environment has become very accommodating in terms of where you can do. You can be in Kenya right now, but working for an Australian company. You could be in Kenya and working for a company in Iceland. So really the boundaries which used to confine us in terms of our careers have been broken down by internet. So I think that's a major shift in terms of career choices.
All right, that is good to clarify the role of globalization and internet, being the foundation of that, and how it is impacting how careers, are being picked. But coming to Professor Thuranira, there is the element that professors mentioned about that clarity. It's a very small percentage, 6% of students coming and changing. For higher learning institutions like yours where you operate, is there a dedicated effort to chisel out some of this clarification? If anyone is coming in with doubts, is there an element of reassurance that they have made the right decision as they transition into higher learning where specializations happen?
Thank you. At the university level, yes, it is very fluid nowadays, unlike before. When we were going to the university, you would be admitted for a particular course, and that was it. But today, in all the public universities, which Meru University of Science and Technology is, there is that element of change. When students are admitted in first year, like now we are admitting students in September 2021, they are given a chance. There is a window opened where if you are admitted for a degree, say Bachelor of Science in computing, and you're not a person into computing, you are given a window to change. We have inter-school, interdepartmental transfers. There is also inter-university transfers where somebody can move from CTEC to Meru University of Science Technology and vice versa. Depending on your choice of the course, it's very flexible and fluid nowadays. And we give them like 3 weeks to make up their mind. You know, these are just students who have cleared high school. Maybe in high school, the career mentorship was not very well for them. Maybe they were influenced by their parents so much or their peers. But now at the university, we have people we call program leaders. And these program leaders, their work is to guide the students the first month when some of them are undecided. And now, depending on your cluster points and your qualification, according to the COOPS, the placement board, you can change. And the lecturers are there to guide you, and the program leaders are people who are specialized in that area. They'll tell you, if it is Bachelor of Data Science, these are the qualifications, this is the market area, and this is where you can even employ yourself. So yes, there is a chance of changing career in the first year, and mostly that's the foundation.
Definitely, very important. Sorry for that. You know, sometimes you attend the first class and you realize, oh, I made a mistake here. You know, maybe you've forgotten the basics that you learned in high school. That sometimes happens, yeah? That's what happened to me, you know. I entered that maths class. I sat at the back. We were almost 200 students, and I was like, wow, there needs to be a change today. But coming to you, Dr. Jeremiah, you know, institutions do change. They give an opportunity for young people transitioning to change careers. For somebody who's well advanced into be it the higher learning institution or even they have transitioned from higher learning institution, how flexible is it to transition from one thing? Maybe you realize, oh, maybe there's not the passion ahead. How easy is it to transition from one thing to the other?
Thank you. I think, as you said, what is important, and when in high school training or secondary school, is supposed to provide the basics, where as a student you are exposed to different areas, general areas, and you're expected that, and that's why if we put a lot of emphasis in high school, you know, that exposure, then you find when a student finishes high school, they have a bit of wide exposure, and then also they are able to see what they like, what is their passion, then they are able to choose the right path. You see, the problem is when a student is not advised properly, and there are various things. One is the passion. What is it they like doing? What do they want to do? Because a career is something you are going to do most part of your life, doing something. And if you choose something which you don't have passion for, you really don't want to really die for, then you find that there will be challenges going forward. You have poor productivity when people are going, I mean, at that time of working, no motivation, and no that deep knowledge. You know, you don't have passion to dig deep and be an expert in an area. So, so that's why it's very important to have that exposure, and students to go for tours they have, and then they're able to see what is it that they really have passion, they think they can do and make an input. Because that's very important in a career. so that you're able to choose, and then you have passion, you pursue and excel. You see, the point is we have challenges, and I think there was a research done by Ministry of Education where it shows that a lot of workers are misaligned. Some are doing work because they just find it's available to do. So we have challenges in organization because that affects productivity. It is not some people do things they really are not passionate to do. And that's why even in our technical courses also, that exposure, we are not able to go deep. Yeah, and that would spur our product, even industrialization. People are able to comprehend processes properly. They go deep into, knowledge. Because I believe most professions really is not about that some are well-paying or not. It is the level of depth that you get into. If you are professional in a certain area, you'll always get work, and you are paid. You're paid for what? Value that you bring. An employer will always employ you, and you are paid for that value because you will need to bring value to an organization, and then that out of your value, then you are compensated accordingly. So when you are smart and good, you understand properly, you are able to produce, you are valuable, you are value. And that means your compensation also increases.
Wow.
So it is really important that unlike old days, maybe our days where maybe that knowledge was not there, and the professor has mentioned the influence of internet, is now information is a lot, is available. In the internet, some have been able to search, if I want to do this profession, what does it entail? So there is a lot of information out there. And also talking to professionals, get to know if you're a doctor or what is it they do. You can try to get information. Then that way you're able to choose a career and then go deep. Because the other challenge I usually see is a waste of time. Because you spend 4 years in the university, you do something, later you realize it's not something you really want to do. You go back again to start another career. Yeah. So you imagine the time you have wasted. Instead of that, you should be building on it and going deep. So one, you have wasted time. So we end up losing time and productivity, as I said. So it is important even for all of us. I think career advisory or career, we have counselors. We must encourage, so that you get it right at the beginning, especially after high school, a student get it right on what they want to do. So that's why now there is need to have counselors, what we call career counselors, so that they guide you properly, and they have ways now. It's a profession in itself.
Yes.
Then you get it right, then you pursue it. And progress, then we will see a lot of impact.
Okay.
So it's an important topic that we are really discussing today.
Definitely. You're speaking about,
yes,
going deeper, and there's the element of passion. And this passion discussion has been brought back. It's been there for a while. Some people are told follow your passion. Others are told follow the money, because you don't eat passion unless you are making passion juice out of it. And that is a career for some people. But looking at the balance between what is trending, like the future of the job market, balancing that with what you really like, Mr. Oko. There's that element of, I know the future, where the future is heading, I should know coding. The world is going digital. These are basic skills that I should have. If I have a career that is IT backed, there is a likelihood that this gonna spiral as time goes by. Yeah. But at the same time, I'm passionate about something that is totally different. So in terms of balancing between passion and what exactly the market demands, how does somebody go about in that regard?
It is said that you should follow your passion and not your pension. So a lot of people are stuck in a job that they don't like, or stuck in a career that they don't like. And it boils down all the way from the beginning, when you're in Form 2, when you're choosing what to do. But on the flip side, I don't think when we ask ourselves a question like, what exactly is a university? The academicians will tell you that a university is an institution of higher learning. From the organization development point of view, and the student's point of view in the work world out there, it's totally different. Because in my view, a university is a reservoir of young energy and talents that are being groomed in readiness to get out into the market and affect the bottom line of organizations. So when you get the organizations out there looking for people, most universities will go in and have apprenticeship programs or career programs, wherever when the schools are closed, they get into university and get to know if what they're practicing in school is applicable in terms of what they're doing. And that's why it's good to get it right. Now, the organizations have got organization development programs that helps them to determine what role needs to be filled by who. But in many occasions, you'll find organizations bringing in bodies, then finding what they can do. But professional organizations will craft the role. The HR fraternity will call it terms of reference, or key performance areas, or performance requirement options that then determines that this job requires this type of a person. With that, you've got a square peg in a square hole, and vice versa. And mixed with passion, then you find that somebody will enjoy what they're doing. But a lot of people are doing things they don't like. And that's why it's important to get this right. A couple of weeks ago, I got a call from one of the students, and he said he was very stressed. And I said, what are you stressed about? Your parents are doing everything for you. But he said something interesting. He said, I don't think I like what I'm doing. And I don't know what to do next. So there's career counseling and career guidance. But there's something called coaching. Coaching is defined as identifying individuals' talent and then helping him or her to maximize that talent. So you cannot be forced to do what you don't like. You must be co-partnering in terms of deciding what is it that you want to do. But on the other hand, the government should be telling the universities through the Ministry of Labor that we want this type of workforce. Do we really know as a government that how many engineers do we want to get out? How many civil engineers? How many nurses? How many doctors? How many pilots? When kids wake up and say, when I grow up, I'd like to be a pilot. I know one of my friends who blurted out that many years ago, and he's a pilot. How do we identify that and nurture it and bring it to what it is? So do we really know when we wake up and graduate, Onyango, Njoroge, Njuguna, when you get out into the market, will you find a job? Many of them don't find jobs because there is no organizational plan to have organizations out there that are supposed to be doing or creating jobs for these people we are churning out. So it's a big partnership between the universities and the government so that it will churn out these people. You know, universities are like conveyor belt of talents and skills. What are there factories? Are there organizations out there that are going to employ all these people? The big question is that.
Yeah, very pertinent question indeed. And I'm glad we have people from the universities here because sometimes there's that element of, we've done our bit. Let's take in the next batch. As you go, as you transition, sort yourself, find, did you take advantage of this particular space that you're in? Prof, That brings us to that question that we have to face. The crisis of the job market that we have right now, and balancing that with your career choice. How does a young person go about that?
Let me say this, moderator. The people we produce are meant to go to the job market. But jobs are created within an economic environment. So I want to, first of all, support what Ouko is saying in terms of where are our figures? Where are our figures in terms of how many opportunities are there for ICT graduates? How many opportunities are there for civil engineers? How many opportunities are there for veterinary surgeons? I'm one of them. How many positions are there for human doctors? And the issue of statistics, KNBS should be able to be giving that together with the Ministry of Labor. So they are able to tell us if the universities produce this number of B.Ed graduates, they will be absorbed in these secondary schools, they will be absorbed in these primary schools. But I don't think we are doing very well in terms of linking information from training institutions to the job market. So that's the first thing. So we need to work on our data. The second one is expanding the economy. When Kenya got independence, we were very few. Just about 6 million, 6.1 million. The country is doing very close to 50 million people, churning out of 100,000 graduates per year. Nairobi University, when I graduated, we used to be 2,000. Those are how many folds? I mean, it's an unimaginable number of times. Now, if I found it easy, and it was very easy for us to get jobs, today, the competition for the same or slightly expanded job market with this number of graduates means that we need to be a little more concerned about the growth of the economy. And therefore, I want to support a situation where the government gets involved in expansion of industries the way it used to do in the 60s and the 70s. We need to go back there. If you find, for example, we had things like KMC, it was doing very well, it was not making as much in losses as it is doing now. We had Uplands meat factory. We had the sugar factories were also doing very well. The many synthetic, manufacturing companies, East African Bag and Cordage, many textile industries that were in Nakuru, Eldoret, Thika. And the fact that we closed a lot of these factories, or instead of growing them, then created a situation where the jobs were, the people to do jobs were increasing, but the opportunities were shrinking. And therefore, my view is that we need a more intense discussion as a country on deliberate creation of jobs. And jobs will never be created outside the human needs. We create jobs through clothes, through food, through housing, through the different activities that are done in a country. What we are doing now is creating a job for Noah and creating a job for your technical team. So essentially, jobs don't exist in exclusion of what is required by human beings. And therefore, we must have a deliberate national discussion on how do we create jobs for the youth. And the issue of career choices sometimes are dictated by what is available. And therefore, you may have the passion to do a certain career. But if the job is not available, then you have to fall back to something else because you also need food on the table. So there are many other factors that dictate even the career you choose, the availability, the economic environment in which you are, because a person may want to go to business, but may lack the capital required to start the business. You may want to go to manufacturing, but the requirement for manufacturing is probably much bigger than what you can afford. So sometimes the issue of career choices are more intricate than just a question of passion, than just a question of availability of jobs, because it's run within a socio-economic environment. It's not in isolation. And therefore, my view is that as a nation, we need to sit down and deliberately discuss expanding job opportunities. It is a major discussion, and we need it.
Definitely. Professor Thuranira, what are your thoughts in that regard over what Professor said?
Well, my thoughts are that first, we should not just focus on university education as a creator of jobs. We should look at the informal sector as well and the self-employment. And what I have in mind, and I'm happy with what the government is doing with the creation of new bodies like Kenya National Qualification Authority, is allowing recognition of prior knowledge. That the Juakali people out there, somebody is a mechanic, somebody is doing something that they are not even trained for, but somebody can dismantle an engine of a tractor or a car and assemble it, and they have never been to school. That recognition of prior knowledge is actually the basis of CBC. That is not about papers anymore. It's about, can you be able to do it? And through the Ministry of Education, universities like us, which are technical, we are about to be actually given certification to tell NOAA that your level of knowledge is a diploma in mechanical engineering, and you're in the Juakali sector, you own a garage somewhere. So here, the moment we bring everybody on board, because many people have thought that for you to get a good career, you must have gone to the university. But if we borrow from countries abroad, even the developed countries, actually, the people who have brought those countries to the level they are is not necessarily the people with the degrees, but the middle level, especially the diplomas, the certificates, the artisans. Today, as you speak, if you go, like where I come from, if I want a plumber, I have to book a plumber 2 weeks before. So we have to look at the economy in wholesome, not just higher education. At the university, it is just one segment. The other informal sector is another segment, and the high schools is another segment. They all complement each other. But I want to support my colleague here, Professor Munene, that the government needs to come up with the right policies. Because you'd be asking yourself, where did Kenya go wrong when the Asian Tigers, we started together, but they are 50 times ahead of us? It's about policies and clear policies, and also implementing those policies so that we recognize our youth and what they can do. Another thing, other than the pension my colleagues have talked about, there's something else that we need also to look at. You have passion, yes. What about your ability? The ability of the individual. You'd want to be a surgeon, like my colleague here, but do you have the capacity? So as the youth look at themselves, you should be able to evaluate yourself in terms of your personality, your capability, what can you do?
Yes.
Then you'll be able to be advised to fit in what you're supposed to do. And finally, in the UK, when you go for an interview, the oral interview is followed by something called psychometric tests. Psychometric tests, you undergo a test which is able to gauge you in terms of which career do you fit. There are some people who are very good with their hands. There are some people very good with the numbers. Others, language. Others, there are people who can act. There are those who can run. So we need to gauge our abilities
Okay.
and capabilities.
Definitely, very important. In fact, in primary school, I was being put on the running team, just based on my name. Performed so poorly. So we have to be wholesome in our decision making, very important. And before I come to Dr. Jeremiah, I'd like us to take a look at a short clip from Mary University, and these are young people speaking. Take a look at this.
Great university, that's how I call it. Because being here, it has given me an opportunity to learn very many things. And as you can see, there are very many equipments here. Through these laboratories, we are able to learn these things that are outside in the market practically. And when we go out for jobs, actually we can compete well with graduates maybe from other universities. But I know we do better here because the technicians, they allow us to handle these equipments. They allow us to do them ourselves. So it's a very, very great learning opportunity and very, very equipped laboratories that we really appreciate the department and the Meru University in general. So for students outside there, those who want to pursue their careers in university level, we welcome you because this is first-hand experience. This university is so great. We promise you, and I promise you because I've gone through this, you will get the best from here.
All right, you'll get the best and the best. And I know we were listening here. I'm pretty sure people have been growing into listening so much with podcasts growing. These days, you're driving or you're traveling, you're just listening. And I'm glad that we were able to hear the sentiments of that particular student. But bringing in Dr. Jeremiah Kiplagat, Prof has brought up a very important point where we look at the job market and we look at universities as the antidote or as the solution to that. Was that our downfall, especially looking back at history and where we are, where there was sort of neglect of, our colleges, our local colleges, our technical institutions? Was that the downfall of this situation that we're in right now?
Thank you. Yes, I think in a way, yes. I think over time we emphasize the degree programs and the need. In the society, if someone has a degree is more valuable, and in a way, possibly we lost. And I think the government has realized that, and we are now, there is a lot of emphasis on TVET colleges equipping, and a lot of campaign to say that, if you don't have to go to university. Also, and it's been said by Professor here, that you can also build a career, a successful career, from where you are capable on and grow as well. So you find that, normally the standard practice, even in engineering, is you have an engineer who must be supported by several hands-on technicians to the low level. It is like a pyramid where you need a lot of hands-on people on the ground to do the work, and then that which can be now supervised by an engineer. So you find in the market, and that's why, I think there were some videos sometime where you have one person working, being supervised by several supervisory levels. Yeah, so you find that affects the productivity. So I think we must understand now that it is the skills what matters, that you have some certain skills. Even at the rural, when you want to build a house, it's a problem to get a very credible fundi who can build your house properly. You don't get it, yeah? So we have run. So there is a need even at that level. And if someone comes and you can see he has done value, build for you a very nice job, you compensate commensurately. Yeah. So In a way, it has affected us, and I think the way we're going now, we have to change that and encourage hands-on skills, and that's why the CPC, we must support this program of government of CPC, which is hands-on. You get skills, and instead of relying to someone to give you employment, you can as well create employment. And based on your excellence, you know that excellence is what we want, you can create a niche for yourself and have a lifeline of a career. So I totally agree that we have to refocus that, and I think we are heading the right direction with the CPC programs.
You know, this brings in mind quite a couple of years ago. Actually, recently, was it last year, there was news that there's somebody who's been flying a plane, and apparently there's some doctoring of grades somewhere. So somehow it was an illegal process, but he's been doing this. And many years back, again, we had somebody who was treating people for quite a while, and realized, oh, the guy has not been to medical school. This is just natural talent. Yeah? So when you talk about skills, Mr. Ouko, when you talk about skills, and also having the likes of Mark Zuckerberg, Elon Musk, coming out and saying, I don't need to see your papers. You come show me what you can do. Maybe you are learning from YouTube University, which is a huge competition to our universities here, and you've mastered a skill, you go demonstrate, and we give you a job. I mean, looking at where careers are going, are we going paperless as time goes by?
That reminds me of one of the best universities in the world. It's called Street University, the University of Hard Knocks, where people just watch and do. And it is said that if you want to be the best in the world, watch the people around you, and you'll be surprised what you pick from them. And I think it's Whitney Young also who says, the world is but a stage, but everyone else is an actor. If you watch the best actors and pick the skills from them and apply them to your life, you'll be one of the best. I like the discussion about the job creation and the part that the government plays and why we are left behind after all these years. And let's go back to the purpose of the government. The real purpose of the government is to create an enabling environment that allows businesses to thrive, then in the process collect taxes from them. Then now invite the investors from out of the country and charge them an arm and a leg and let them invest, and in the process they'll be creating employment. And that's how you develop the entrepreneurial skills or entrepreneurial organization. But when it comes to skills, there are three skills that are fundamental. Conceptual skills, which is only 4%, the technical skills, which is what we get through the university, and that is the basis on which the organizations determine who to employ, and then a whopping 85% people skills. And the most ignored is the people skills. So this is fundamental, because if you look at the output of the universities and look at the HR fraternity, they complain that the people that appear for interviews are not up to the task. So when young people are asked, we want experience, how do you do some work to get to your experience level that is required if you don't have that environment created for you to do it? And that's why I believe getting back to the competency-based is critical, because it will allow a lot more skills to be built. So there are lots of things when it comes to skill and talent development. And that's why even in management, when you look at the university, they actually groom these people to get into the organizations. And that's why the management is defined as the ability to convert human energy or human effort into measurable performance. So if you don't understand the measurability of the output of the university in terms of skills and talent, then there's a mismatch with the organizational leaders out there because they don't even know what to look for. And that's why they use the OD programs like psychometric testing to tell you whether this person has got what it takes or not. But we have a lot of square pegs in round holes because of another thing called a vacuum in African leadership, whereby you can go to school and get your degree, but the culture of political reward, whereby I'm the MD, I will employ the people from my own village, they trash out all that skill that you've attained from the university. So I think there's a lot more that still could be done in terms of developing and encouraging young people to go into a career. But now we say, go into entrepreneurship. How do we create that environment that allows them to dance on that stage? That becomes another question.
Yeah, indeed, a critical question. And this goes parallel, actually in line with the discussion around the training in our institutions vis-a-vis offering solutions in regards to job creation. Because the discussion is largely, how many jobs are we creating? But there's this talk now of self-employment. So with your skill, are you able to start something by yourself? Is it a critical element, Prof, in every course, be it a higher learning institution or a technical course, that they're making sure these people who are going through these institutions are also empowered, not only to fit into the job market, but also to start their own thing and hopefully grow, because everything, was started at some point?
I think I want to say one or two things. The first thing is, somebody raised a question of, we were together with Korea in 1973. Now, Korea, through KOICA, is a donor. We are still borrowing 60 billion a month in the last 1 year. That was what was in the papers today. The question is very, very simple. What is it that Korea did different than what we are doing? And that's what I will start with. In the first place, they understood the value of manufacturing. So if you find steel manufacturing, it's a very huge industry. Korea is one of the biggest ship makers in the world. If you see what goes into ship making, it creates enormous number of jobs for technicians, for engineers, and for suppliers of the materials. Korea started with us with the Hyundai. Now today is a big car manufacturing. If you take a car has 100,000 components. All these are created by technicians, they are designed by engineers, and the rest. There are a lot of service jobs in the line, what you call in the job chain. It's a huge, huge number of jobs that are created before a car rolls out of a plant. Robotics, welding. There are a lot of things that go into manufacturing of anything that comes out as what we can see. So my view is this, and on this one I support the president because he's very passionate about manufacturing, that unless we go to issue of manufacturing, even when we talk about producing graduates, whether it is at TVET level or whether it's graduates at university level, the question is whether the job market can absorb them. Because I think, in my view, our country is very small in terms of consumption. But if you take the global market, take Ethiopia, 100 million people, DRC, close to 100 million people. Within our East African region, we are talking about 50,000 Kenya, about the same number with Tanzania, about 30 in Uganda, Rwanda and Burundi. We are talking about a very big number of consumers. But the question is, what is it that we are producing? What is it that we are producing? And the truth of the matter is that our level of manufacturing is actually what we call middle. We are importing semi-finished products and then repackaging them, and we are saying that that is manufacturing. That is not true. When you talk about steel manufacturing, we want you to start with the iron ore that is in this country and is available. We have coal in the Mua Basin, Kitui, and the rest. We take the iron ore, produce steel, then from steel we make all the different things that are required that are metal-based, including the seats we are sitting on, or the tents, tubes that are used in this tent that we are using. In the course of doing that, millions of jobs will be created. And I think it's good to be honest with ourselves. That is the whole difference between us and the tigers of Asia. They went to manufacturing, and they also became very good in service provision. So that when people come to this country, are they happy with what we are doing? So we must build our economy based on what actually makes other countries. We are not rediscovering the wheel. China has just come up. Because if you read the Friedman book, The World is Flat, the Chinese accepted that they were behind. And they were behind Japan, they were behind the US, they were behind Britain. But they said, okay, bring all your manufacturing here. By doing that, they did two things which was very important. One, they had opportunity to have a lot of their staff trained on the real job work. And therefore, they changed, and if you read that book, they say the Chinese were willing to be the stonemen, laying the blocks. But they knew that after laying the blocks, they are going to become engineers. And that is what China have now become. It's now the world's second largest economy, simply by emphasizing manufacturing. That's why in this country, if you check the import from China is the one which exports most of the things that we consume ourselves. Mm-hmm. So if the issue is, let's deal with the facts. Okay. Regardless of what we train or what we call it, if our manufacturing is low, I can assure you, Noah, that we are not going to grow as a country.
Very, very critical, sir. And I'm glad this passionate discussion, actually, we have to continue with it. I'm going to come to Professor Thuranira shortly, but before I do that, I'd like us to take a short break right here. And you've brought up a very pertinent discussion in terms of, you are together with these people, what happened? What changed? Are we rediscovering? Maybe from our discussion we might rediscover something new, but hopefully we go the route that you're saying manufacturing is key and central. With that said, let's take a short break. Quite an informative discussion here about careers and other pieces when you talk about careers.